Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Sunday, May 19th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. We're going to see Nick Pivetta and Matthew Liberatore as your projected starters. Interesting game here. Probably one of my least favorite games on the board, but I'm going to lean towards the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, St. Louis, we knew they had a horrible start to the season offensively, really against both righties and lefties. They had a pretty low strikeout rate, but they just weren't getting on base. Their slugging percentage was very low. But now recently, we're starting to see that offense pick it up. We saw 10 runs scored in the first game of this series. And, you know, Nick Pivetta, he battled an injury, for the majority of the season so far. He's only had a few starts. He's pitched well overall with a sub-4 ERA, but we saw the problem that's really he's had in his entire career has been the home run ball. And recently, his first two starts back from the injury, he goes 9 2/3 innings against the Braves and Rays and gives up a combined 5 home runs. And that's just not what you want to see, right around 5 home runs per 9. His strikeout numbers are still there, but the control's always fine in terms of missing outside the zone. Doesn't really walk a lot of batters, but the sharp contact he gives up does scare me. Now, Liberatore's not my favorite option, but I will say the Red Sox strikeout rate against lefties has been very steep basically all season, and so far in the month of May, still above that 30% rate. So if Liberatore gets into trouble and can get those missed bats, get those strikeouts, he should be able to get out of some jams. I'm going to lean towards the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they have the much better bullpen. I like the way their lineup is hitting the ball right now, so give me St. Louis in the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the New York Yankees. Chris Flexen and Carlos Rodon are your starters. I've mentioned the regression concerns for Carlos Rodon, but right now he's pitching really well, and especially at Yankee Stadium, where in his first 19 1/3 innings at Yankee Stadium this year, he's got a 1.86 ERA and a 188 opponent's batting average. So facing a weak White Sox lineup against lefties, I think Rodon pitches well, while Chris Flexen, he's been solid in his role, but he still has that 4.46 ERA. His last start was not his best, and he's facing the Yankees lineup. We've talked about how strong they've been against right-handed pitching all season, but especially in this month of May. And when you look at how hot Aaron Judge has been, a lot of extra base hits, home runs. He's hitting the ball very sharply. He is looking like the Aaron Judge we saw a couple years ago who broke the American League home run record. So I'm going to go with the New York Yankees in this one and lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to see George Kirby for Seattle. No official starter for Baltimore, so we'll have to wait and see who they go with. But I think Kirby pitches well. We've mentioned the Orioles' struggles against right-handed pitching in the month of May. Kirby's in great form. Last game, 7 innings of shutout baseball against the Royals. 6 strikeouts to go with it. No walks. He's been solid. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. The only bad outing he had was against the Twins back on May the 8th, where he went 5 innings, 4 runs. But other than that, he's been very solid, and I think he pitches well. I think the Mariners have a good bullpen behind them. Well, like I said, we'll have to see who the Orioles' official starter is, but right now I like the Mariners in the money line. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Trevor Williams and Aaron Nola are your starters. You got one of the most profitable teams in baseball, pitching one of the most profitable pitchers in baseball, at least starter-wise, and Trevor Williams, who's, the Nationals have only lost 1 of his games this season. They are a whopping 7-1 in Trevor Williams starts this year. He's just been super consistent for him, giving up 3 earned runs or fewer in every single start, and really 2 earned runs or fewer in every game except 1. Doesn't really have flashy stuff, doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts, but does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground so far in May, a 23-20 ground ball to fly ball ratio. He's faced some weaker lineups like the Marlins and the White Sox, the Oakland A's, but he's also faced some tough lineups like in the month of May against the Orioles and the Rangers. The Nationals went on to win those games 1-0 and 3-0. That 3-0 win was against Corbin Burns, of all pitchers, one of the best pitchers in the American League. So Williams has not been intimidated. Aaron Nola on the other side, another good option for Philadelphia, who's pitching well this year. But to me, I think the values on the Nationals in a game like this, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. So I would lean towards the under, but I'm going to go with the Washington Nationals plus the 1.5 runs on the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to see Aaron Civale and Alek Manoah as your starters. This is one of those situations where I have to see it to believe it, because Alek Manoah, he pitched well in that last game against Minnesota, but the Blue Jays still lost that game in the end. And going back to last season, we've done very well fading the Blue Jays when Manoah has been a starting pitcher, and so far Toronto 0-2 in his first 2 games at the major league level. And when you look last year, we know he struggled mightily last season, but especially against these Tampa Bay Rays, where his control was way off. I mean, the first start against Tampa Bay on April 16th, 4 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and an 8-1 loss. Then on May 25th last year, 3 innings, 5 total runs, 4 of those were earned, 5 walks. So this is a tough Tampa Bay lineup, and they've really improved against right-handed pitching since the beginning of the season. Savali's not been great, that's for sure, but I got to continue to fade Manoah when I got to continue to fade the Blue Jays when Manoah is a starting pitcher. Even though we're starting to see those signs of improvement, I still think the value lies with the Rays right now. So give me Tampa Bay on the money line. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Chris Paddock and Tanner Bybee are your starters. After Bybee struggled against the Angels and the Tigers, he bounced back in a big way last game against the Rangers. Tough lineup, 5 1/3 innings, shutout baseball. That was a 7-0 Guardians win. And even though Bybee struggled recently, the Guardians are still 4-1 in his last 5 games. So he's doing a good job at least keeping them competitive in these games. And I think the Guardians win this one. Chris Paddock on the other side against the Yankees, 12 base hits, 5 earned runs. I know it's the Yankees, one of the best lineups in baseball, but still, Paddock has pitched a lot better at Target Field, and that was a game at home where he struggled. Now you go on the road where he's been a lot worse, and I think the Guardians are just not a really good matchup for him. So give me the Cleveland Guardians on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Miami Marlins. Sean Manaea and Sixto Sanchez are your starters. I've mentioned I don't love Sixto Sanchez in this starting pitching role. We've seen him struggle quite a bit as a starter. Even last game where he didn't give up a single earned run, he still gave up 3 unearned runs, only had 2 strikeouts and 2 walks in 4 2/3 innings. So he's not really pitching deep into ball games. The control's been an issue. His strikeout stuff's also just not really been there, and that's a concern for me. I would consider Sixto a strikeout-dependent guy, at least a little bit. I mean, he's only got 13 Ks in 22 2/3 innings. So the Mets, I'd much rather back them when they're facing a righty than a lefty. Manaea's been, solid, and the Marlins have not been great against lefties. So give me the New York Mets in this game on the money line. Next up, the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Houston Astros. Colin Ray and Spencer Arrighetti are your starters. Arrighetti, we know that ERA at 7.52 is not pretty on paper, but the last game against the A's, I think, was a real big step in the right direction. 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts, no home runs given up. It was a 9-2 Astros blowout win. I think the Astros overall trending in the right direction right now. That bullpen's really improved since the beginning of the season when it was arguably the worst bullpen in baseball. The lineup's been fine, but now we see Yordan Alvarez in a little bit of a slump, and the Astros role players starting to really pick it up. So offensively, Houston's been solid. Colin Ray on the other side, I always worry about regression. You look at that sub-4 ERA. I don't think it's going to be the case by the end of the season. He only has 30 strikeouts in 44 1/3 innings, and we saw last game give up a home run, 3 earned runs, a couple of base hits early, and that was against the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have been one of the worst lineups in baseball, and arguably the worst lineup in baseball against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days in the month of May. So I got to go with the Houston Astros in this game on the money line. Next up, the Oakland Athletics taking on the Kansas City Royals. J.P. Sears and Brady Singer are your starters. I like Brady Singer. I like him at Kauffman Stadium especially, but I think the value lies with Oakland in this game. J.P. Sears has been solid. We saw that last game against Houston. The Astros, like I mentioned, their lineup has still been fine. Even though they've struggled this year, the Astros lineup's been good, especially against left-handed pitching. But Sears went in that game in 5 innings, 1-run ball, kept his team competitive in that one. They weren't able to win that game, but I think they'll be able to get to Brady Singer, who struggled quite a bit in his last start. You look at the game against the Mariners, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 9 base hits given up, a home run as well. The Oakland A's bullpen, we know, has been a big positive surprise for this team. And if Sears can give the A's 5-6 decent innings, hand it over to that bullpen, and the offense just does a little bit against Brady Singer early on, I think the Oakland A's have a great chance of winning this game outright, even though Kansas City's been such a good home team. So I'm going to take a shot here with the Oakland Athletics, take them at the plus money price on the money line and plus the 1.5 runs. Next up, the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Chicago Cubs. Mitch Keller and Jameson Taillon are your starters. Keller's in good form right now. He won a complete game, 1-run performance against the Angels in a win, then against the Brewers last time out, 6 innings, a shutout ball. He gave up 8 base hits, but I believe only one of them was an extra base hit, so a lot of singles. You limit the damage there, no sharp contact, no home runs. He didn't have a single walk in that one, had 7 strikeouts, so like I said, as long as you're limiting the damage, he's had 7+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 4. It's really key in getting out of jams, is earning those missed bats. So I think he pitches pretty well in this game. Jameson Taillon, he was pitching well. The last game, he gave up 7 runs. Now, 5 of those were unearned runs, but still 2 home runs given up, only 2 strikeouts, and only went 4 innings. I think it was definitely his worst start of the season by far. It didn't really affect his ERA too much, but I am a little bit worried about him going into this game. Now, the Pirates, like I just mentioned, one of the worst lineups in baseball against righties in the last month and really overall this year, but they've been competitive in this series. They got to Kyle Hendricks in the first game, that's for sure. So I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Pirates in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Texas Rangers. Jose Soriano and Michael Lorenzen are your starters. And like I mentioned, I've been impressed with this Angels lineup against right-handed pitching recently. And Lorenzen, while he's pitched well last game, I still worry about him going forward. We saw that, before that Guardians started to give up 6 earned runs to the Oakland A's. A couple of starts back, 5 earned against the Cincinnati Reds. So he's been very inconsistent. The control's always a concern with Lorenzen. He walked 4 guys in that last game against Cleveland. So I think the Angels can get to him for a few runs. I've mentioned I really like Jose Soriano. I think he's a really underrated starting pitcher. Right now, 1-4, but with a sub-4 ERA, he's been much better on the road. He keeps the ball on the ground. His strikeout numbers have been really solid, and I think he pitches well in this game. I know the Rangers are a tough lineup, but I think Soriano keeps his team competitive. I think the Angels are worth a shot here for sure. We saw them blowout W in the first game of this series, 9 runs scored, and it's not always pretty with Los Angeles. That bullpen is tough to watch at times, but I think the value lies with Los Angeles in this game. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the San Francisco Giants with Dakota Hudson and Jordan Hicks as your starters. I mentioned on Saturday, because we originally thought Hicks was going to pitch on Saturday, that I like the matchup for him because he does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. He's pitching now at Oracle Park versus, Coors Field or anywhere else. And I like him at Oracle Park because it's a pitcher-friendly stadium. He's facing a Rockies team. It's got one of the highest ground ball rates in baseball. They've been impressive, the Rockies, recently, especially their offense, even on the road. But I think this is a good spot for Hicks, and I think Dakota Hudson on the other side, really tough to back him right now. The control's all over the place. Now he's starting to miss inside the zone. He gave up 2 home runs in that last game to San Diego. He's given up 3 or more walks in 4 of his last 5 starts. The strikeout numbers are never there for Dakota Hudson. He's not really a strikeout guy. So if you're putting guys on via the walk and you're giving up sharp contact and you can't really get those missed bats, I can't back in this spot. So give me San Francisco land to 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hunter Green for Cincinnati. No official starter for LA, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto is listed on ESPN, so he could very well be the starter. I think we got 2 good starting pitching options if this is the matchup in this game. Hunter Green's impressed me recently. He's somebody that we knew he has great strikeout stuff, 58 Ks and 52 1/3 innings. The concern, especially in his rookie season, was the home run ball. He gave up a lot of sharp contact and a ton of home runs. And the walks also, he had an issue with the walks as well. So far this year, the walk numbers are inconsistent. Like we've seen 5 walks, 4 walks, but his last game, Arizona, only the 1 free pass. So he has been solid in certain outings when it comes to that. But the home run ball has not really been an issue for him. Only 3 bombs given up in 52 1/3 innings. Like I said, the strikeout numbers are always there for him. I think he pitches pretty well. It's a tough matchup. I mean, LA against right-handed pitching, they've been very strong this season, but I think he does enough to keep his team competitive. And, I'd much rather back the Cincinnati Reds against a right-handed pitcher than a lefty starter. They did a little bit against James Paxton on Friday night, but still, they have been one of the weakest lineups in baseball against lefties going back the last month, month and a half, really. So against a righty, even though Yamamoto's been solid, we saw him struggle a bit in that last game against San Francisco. 4 earned runs given up, a home run, now makes it 3 bombs in his last 2 starts combined. I think that, especially at this kind of price, we're getting an unbelievable price here with Cincinnati. I'd rather take the plus 1.5 runs with Cincinnati in this one. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Matt Manning and Jordan Montgomery as your starters. Now, the Detroit Tigers have also not been great against left-handed pitching in the month of May, where they're 27th in isolated power, 29th in team OPS with a 22.3% strikeout rate and a very low walk rate at 6.7%. Montgomery has not dazzled in his first 5 starts as a Diamondback, but the Diamondbacks are still 3-2, winning record in his first 5 games, including the last 2 games against Cincinnati, where they won both of those, against one of the weakest lineups against lefties this year. So I think Montgomery pitches well. I think the matchup benefits him. And, Matt Manning on the other side, 16 base hits and 3 walks given up in his last 9 1/3 innings. Not really what you want to see. A lot of base runners, a lot of earned runs, 7 of those in the last 2 games, and a home run to go with it. His strikeout numbers have been better, but I can't trust him in this game on the road. So give me the Arizona Diamondbacks on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.